So I've been playing a lot of Bowtana recently, and it's the most fun I've ever had playing this game since like 5 years. And I actually noticed that I think there's no reason at all to not make your bow character a Bowtana instead. I don't want to say you should use Katana sub all the time, but I'm saying you should invest some skill points into the katana tree and switch depending on the boss, whether you need the survivability and utility or the damage from bow. But let's get into a little bit more detail and let's first talk about the pros and cons of each sub-weapon. So let's start with the pros of using just a bow first. So you get the obvious benefits from the arrow sub-weapon. You get the attack stat from the arrow, additionally on your attack stat on top, which is usually depending on the elemental arrow you will use, around 50 to 100 extra attack. You also get extra stability from the arrow, which will usually vary between 15 and 20% depending on the arrow. And most importantly, you get a cheap element because you can get an element from the arrow and you can just farm it easily without paying millions of spinner on the consignment board. So we can see all benefits from bow are strictly increasing your attack and are doing nothing else. They are just helping you to do more damage. For some bosses that's enough, but for some bosses you need more than just doing damage. For Bowtana, most importantly, you get iframes or just an iframe, depending if you use Tenryu or not. Bows don't have an iframe, and especially the newer bosses start to have more attacks which are not avoidable, and especially if you use Godspeed Wield, will kill you immediately, and you won't have a chance of surviving. Exemplary bosses would be Tuskok, which has a curse attack, which is a whole map area AoE. The new boss Kusar has such an AoE as well. Matong Sword, for example, as well, and there are a couple of others. So for those bosses you would want an iframe to survive those attacks. And with Bowtana you get a Zante. If you use Tenryu as well, you get a longer iframe on Zante and also an iframe on Megadachi. But I just use Zante, but it's really helpful. Next up we have mobility and also some kind of survivability, and the attack is triple thrust. Triple thrust is usable from 12-meter range and will teleport you behind the boss. The important thing here is teleport, because you can either dodge AoEs or you can use it to avoid shark fins. Because if shark fins are directed at you and you use triple thrust behind the boss, you will teleport through the shark fins and will not get hit by them, which will also help you for some bosses quite a lot. Examples would be again Tuskok, Ornlav, and Zahak Machiner. Just a few examples, but there are way more and there can be more scenarios. Next up we have the increased Kairiki duration. Kairiki gives you 100 attack and 25 AMPR. Because Kairiki has the same uptime as Godspeed Wield, you can use them in the same buff combo and have them active all the time. Bows will usually just use Kairiki in front of their crossfire to get the 100 attack buff, but you can have the 100 attack buff and 25 AMPR buff all the time easily on Bowtana, so you have even better MP recovery and the 100 attack boost all the time. Then with Pommel Strike, you get access to paralysis and stun. On the first hit, you will paralyze the target with 100% chance, and with the second hit, you have a 50% chance to stun. So this can be really helpful as well, just in general, if you want to break, if you want to farm a boss, or some bosses have special mechanics for paralysis or stun, like Zahak, Matong Sword, and some others. You can also get paralysis from the bow tree for 15 skill points, but if you will skill Zante, you will get level 5 Pommel Strike anyway, so you just need to invest 5 extra skill points, so it's also cheaper. Besides the already mentioned advantages of Bowtana, you also have Guerrero. Guerrero isn't a huge advantage, but it can be really helpful for high defense bosses because it has a 100% physical pierce. You won't use it as often because you don't spam your katana attacks, but still. You can also spam Pulse Blade if you want to get your stacks up fast because it has a 12-meter range, or at least a far range, to get your stacks up in between crossfire charges, and then use Guerrero. You can also do more damage than a katana with it because most katanas use Tenryu, so their Zentei cannot inflict armor break on the target, and Guerrero gets a damage buff from armor break, and we can just use snipe, so you even have greater damage potential here. So overall, what I just want to tell you with this video is to, at the very least, if you're playing bow, here invest into this skill tree line until triple thrust level 1, and invest here until Zentei level 1, and if you want to also pommel level 10, I have it as a star gem because I don't use it all the time. So you can see 11 extra skill points, 11 extra skill points, just 22 extra skill points, and you have a huge variety of advantages for a lot of bosses which require more mobility than usual. And as you can see, I still have basically all important bow skills. As soon as I equip an arrow sub, I can do exactly the same damage as every pure bow user, but I have an advantage for more survivable bosses. So you can see, shot skills, I got my crossfire here. I don't need this because I have pommel strike. I got all passives here. I also got Brave Aura. I got the full battle skill tree line. This one is a star gem, but well, as you can see, I'm not missing any important bow skill right here. I just have this katana skills on top, and I urge you to do the same.